The Alibi Man Chapter 7. The main entrance to Star Polo on South Shore Drive, which is, of course, nowhere near the shore of anything but a drainage canal, looked like the entrance to a five-star resort. Stone pillars, huge trees, banks of red geraniums, clipped grass. The Cadillac and the Mercedes turned in. I drove past and went to the stable gate further down the road. A rider went past with three ponies tethered on either side, going for a jog. The farrier was banging on the hot shoe, shaping it to fit the foot of a horse being held by a barn hand. A groom was holding the legs of a chestnut in the wash racks across the drive from the barn. Apparently, there was no day of rest at Star Polo. Parked my car in the shed and went to the girl in the wash rack. Her focus was on the horse's forelegs and the cold water that ran down and puddled on the concrete. Lost in thought, she held the hose in one hand and with the other toyed compulsively with a medallion she wore around her neck on a thin black cord. She looked sad, I thought, then again. Maybe it was just the way I felt and I wanted to project that onto everyone around me. It seemed wrong that people should be going on in a normal way, but their reality was not mine. Boring job, I said. She looked up at me and blinked. 20-ish, I figured. Her curly, streaked blonde hair was up in a messy clip. She looked different in a faded tank top and baggy cargo shorts, but I recognized her from one of the tailgating photos. She stared at me with big cornflower blue eyes. Horse duty, I said. It's boring. Yeah, can I help you? She asked. Are you looking for the barn manager? No, actually, I'm looking for you. Her brows knit. Do I know you? No, but I think we have a mutual acquaintance, Irina Makova? Sure, I know Irina. I recognize you from a photograph she has, from a tailgating party at the polo grounds. I'm Elena, by the way, I said, offering her my hand. Elena Estes. She shook it tentatively, still not sure what to make of me. Lisbeth Perkins, the friend from the caller ID. Have you seen Irina around? I asked. She doesn't work here. I know, I mean just around. We went out Saturday night. Why? I worked at the same barn as her. We haven't seen her for a couple of days. The girl shrugged. It's her day off. Do you know where she would go? What does she usually do on her day off? I asked, fishing for whatever information I could get about Irina's life away from the barn. I don't know. Sometimes we go to the beach when we're off or shopping. Where did you go Saturday night? Are you a cop or something? No, I'm just concerned. The world is a scary place, Lisbeth. Bad things happen. She gave a little involuntary laugh. Not to Irina. She can take care of herself. How I wished that had been true in the moment it had become clear that she could not. She was in a big hurry to leave work Saturday, I said. Did you have plans? Just to go out. No place special. We went to a couple of clubs on Calumet Street. Which clubs? Looking annoyed, she turned to the faucets and shut off the water. I don't know, she said impatiently. She was nervous with my questions, whether she had reason to be or whether she was simply sensing something was wrong. I didn't know. What's the difference? We hit some clubs. We had a few drinks. With anyone in particular? I don't like all these questions, she said. It's none of your business what we did. She unsnapped the horse from the ties and started toward the barn with him. I followed. I'm making it my business, Lisbeth, I said. She put the horse in a stall and busied herself with the door latch. Have you seen or heard from her since Saturday night either? I asked. No, you're scaring me. I sometimes have that effect on people. I wish you would leave. She knew something bad was coming. She wanted me to go away before I did the set thing loose. Bad thing loose. Then maybe it didn't really exist and it couldn't touch her life. Or to be 20 and still believe in innocence. Lisbeth, I said. She didn't look at me. She seemed to brace herself. I half expected her to plug her ears with her fingers. Irina is dead. Her body was found this morning in a canal. The big cornflower eyes went glassy with tears. You're lying! What kind of sick person are you? From the corner of my eye, I could see one of the stable hands looking over at us, frowning. He started toward us with a pitchfork in hand. I turned to him and told him in Spanish that everything was fine, but that I had given Lisbeth some very sad news, the death of a friend. The aggression went out of him and he expressed his apologies and went back to his business. I'm sorry, Lisbeth, I said. It's true, and there is no good or gentle way to say it. The girl put her hands over her face and slid down to the ground, her back against the stall door. She drew in a shuddering breath and said, No, the word weak and muffled. No, you're wrong. I'm not. I wish I were, but I'm not. Oh my God! I squatted down beside her and put my hand on her shoulder. I'm very sorry. You two were close? She nodded and sobbed into her hands until she gagged. Can we go sit somewhere? I asked quietly. She nodded, pulled a dirty rag out of the cargo pocket of her shorts, wiped her face, and blew her nose. She held onto my arm as we rose. She felt as weak and shaky as an elderly person in poor health. What happened? She asked, hiccuping air between syllables. Did she drive off the road? She's a terrible driver. No, I said, and said nothing more until we were seated on the bench at the far end of the barn. It's not clear yet what happened, I said. There was no sign of her car. The girl looked at me, confused. I don't understand. Her body was thumped there. She was probably murdered. I thought she might faint. She was so pale. But she got up from the bench, ran around the corner of the barn, and retched. I waited, feeling empty drained from telling her, and in telling her, relieving that horrible moment of discovery. When she came back and sat down again, she put her head in her hands. She was shaking visibly. I can't believe this is happening. Me neither, I said. How can this be happening? I would have told her that life is cruel and unpredictable, but she had just discovered that for herself. Lisbeth, I need to know everything that happened Saturday night. We hit some clubs on Clematis, had some drinks, danced. Any guys involved? Sure. We have this contest to see which one of us can get the most free drinks. Did any of the men seem to think they should get something in return? Ha, she said with very little strength. All of them. They're guys. Did Irina have any interest? No. Boys, she would say, and make a face. She didn't waste her time on boys. Did any of them take that news badly? All of them, she said again. They're guys. I mean, a guy who got pissed off, maybe made a threat, made you uncomfortable. No. Well, she shook her head as if shooing away a thought she didn't want to have. Just say it. Maybe it's nothing, but maybe it isn't. There's this guy we run into a lot. Irina dances with him, kinda leads him on. He always wants her to leave with him, but she never does. And Saturday night, he called her a name. When we were leaving, Irina laughed at him. He didn't follow us or anything. What did he call her? He told Irina she should go for a ride with him. She said he meant a ride on him and that she wasn't interested in riding a pony. And he said what? You fucking Russian cunt. Pardon my language. Irina just laughed and blew him a kiss. What's his name? Brad something. I don't know. He wasn't interested in me. I wasn't interested in him. What club was this in? She rubbed her hands over her face and shrugged. Monsoon, maybe, or Deuce, I don't remember. When you had the fun and you could have had at the clubs. We came back to Wellington and went to Players for a while. It was Mrs. Brody's birthday. There were a lot of people there. I left around 1. And Irina? She was still there. With anyone? Not one in particular. And no one was paying special attention to her? The girl laughed, but her eyes were welling again. Everyone paid attention to Irina. Every man. Something dawned on her then, and she said, wait, and dug into another of the many pockets on her shorts, coming up with her cell phone. I took some pictures. She called the pictures up and scrolled through several, then stopped on one. This is that guy, Brad. The photo was cock-eyed, and the lighting wasn't great, but I could make out his face. A good-looking kid with the spoiled expression of a privileged youth. Can I send this to my phone? I asked. Sure, she said, and handed me the phone. There are a couple more. I scrolled through them. Irina dancing. Irina laughing with another girl. Who's she? Rebecca something. She's a tutor for Sebastian Foster's kid. Sebastian Foster had been a hell of a tennis player in his 20s. The wonder from down under, wild blonde hair, tan, quick as a cat, with a massive serve until his shoulder had given out. I had read in Wellington Lifestyles magazine that he wintered in Wellington so his daughter could, for the most part, skip her education in favor of riding in horse shows. I had first-hand knowledge of that life. My mother had taken me out of school and brought me to Wellington more than one winter growing up so I could ride and show, the only activity that seemed to keep me out of trouble. I had routinely bribed my tutor to get out of doing work. Math? Why would I ever need to know that? I clicked to another photo. Partying, Hardy at Players, a restaurant and club just outside the Palm Beach Polo and golf gated community. Like most places in Wellington, Players was overrun all winter with horse people. It was a place pretty young grooms and riders liked to go to cut loose. Not surprisingly, many worldly gentlemen went there with eyes for those pretty young things half their age. Who was this? I asked. Lisbeth looked at the photo. You're kidding, right? That's Barbario. Juan Barbaro, the the polo player. I don't follow it, I admitted. He's a 10-goal player. He's the best in the world, and he was gorgeous. Thick black hair, dark eyes that seemed to stare right out of the photograph with confidence and sexual energy to burn. Adonis should have looked like this guy. He rides for us, Lisbeth said. The star polo. I had no doubt that Juan Barbario did a lot of riding, and not all of it on horses. This guy probably had women tossing their panties onto the polo field. Beside him in the next photo was Jim Brody, with his arm around Irina, who was young enough to be his granddaughter. And on Irina's other side was a face I hadn't seen in years, except in my very bad dreams. Time stopped. My body went numb. I stopped breathing but realized it only when black cobwebs began to encroach on my peripheral vision. Bennett Walker, still handsome, dark hair, blue eyes, tan, section to the Walker family that owned half of South Florida. Bennett Walker, the man I had meant to marry long ago in a previous life, before everything about me changed, before I dropped out of college, before my father disowned me, before I became a cop, before I became a cynic, before I stopped believing in happily ever after 20 years ago, before Bennett Walker asked me to give him an alibi for the night he raped and beat a woman nearly to death. Like, comment, and subscribe for this video. Bye!